This just in, more carrots are being dangled for first home buyers. We all knew as soon as the downturn began, the government was going to throw the kitchen sink at the property market to keep it going. But now they're not just throwing the kitchen sink, they're throwing the dunny and the alfresco and the granny flat too. In this video, I'm going to go over the latest news on the first home buyer schemes that have been extended. And I guess you know what they say, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. Okay, let's get into it. An extra 10,000 first home buyers wanting to build or purchase a new property will need only 5% deposit. That's right, just 5% deposit and it can be yours. Now this is something I'm extremely worried about. They're luring in all these first home buyers when the market's still close to its peak, when we're in so much economic uncertainty, and a lot of these people, especially in Melbourne or Sydney, if prices do decline more than 5%, then they'll be in negative equity. And when you're in negative equity, you can't refinance and you pretty much become a mortgage prisoner. And if you want to sell, you have to sell at a loss, you have to pay all these fees. It's a very, very dangerous situation to be in. First home buyers will be spared thousands of dollars in mortgage insurance under the extension of the government scheme. So hey, good on the first home buyers that don't have to pay this insurance. I just missed out on it. You know, the first time they bring out this scheme, you know, it went like that. And I had to pay about $7,000 to $8,000 in lender's mortgage insurance. So it's definitely not a fun fee to pay. And you know, some fees, if you're using, you know, a 5% deposit on a $600,000 mortgage, it can be over $20,000. An additional 10,000 buyers will be able to build or purchase a new home with only 5% deposit from Tuesday. And you know, they create all these schemes and they're saying, we want to help first home buyers, we want to help them get in the market. But you know, that's a complete lie. What really happens with these schemes is it keeps the property market going, it keeps confidence in the property market, and it creates a wealth effect for people that already have homes. All of a sudden their properties go up, people feel wealthier and they're willing to go out there and spend more, and it just makes things more expensive, and it makes the next generation even harder for them to get into the property market. Buyers usually need a 20% deposit, or they have to pay lender's mortgage insurance. But under the first home loan deposit scheme, additional loan guarantees of up to 15% will be available until June 30 for eligible buyers. So I guess this is really the government pretty much, you know, getting in on the property game. They're guaranteeing loans. This just sounds like, you know, what happened in the US when, you know, the government was paying part of the repayments for first home buyers. And this is what really creates bubbles, when the government intervenes in a market. When, you know, free markets, normally what happened is it would fall, but the government keeps on intervening to keep it going. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg said the government recognised that saving for a deposit had become a more significant barrier to entering the housing market than the ability to service a home loan. And this is what happens with low interest rates. It makes the price of a property go up and the repayments go down. So if you can get into the market, if you can save that deposit, sometimes the repayments are actually lower than your rent. But you know, if the property price is, you know, $500,000 and you need a 20% deposit, you know, that's $100,000. Where back in the 90s when interest rates were, you know, 16, 17, 18%, actually repaying the loan was a hard part, but it was actually easier to get in the market because prices were lower because interest rates were higher. So it does make it easier for those in the market by lowering interest rates, but it makes it harder for those getting into the market with the cost of living rising and having, you know, to save up $50,000, $100,000 for a deposit. The Morrison government is helping more Australians purchase their first home sooner as part of our economic recovery plan, he said. And yes, it will help the economy. 58% of Australia's wealth is tied up in property. So if people's houses go up, you know, they'll feel wealthier. They may pull equity out and go and buy a new car, go on a holiday, renovate the property. But it doesn't actually really make people get ahead. Investing and building businesses is what will really make you get ahead, not just turning your house into an ATM. Helping another 10,000 first home buyers to buy a new home through our first home loan deposit scheme will help to support all our tradies right through the supply chain, including painters, builders, plumbers and electricians. And yes, it will help the tradies out. So all my tradies out there, I hope this does help you out if you're struggling. And here's something that's really going to keep the bubble going. The price cap on eligible dwellings has also been increased across the states and territories. So there, for all those struggling first home buyers that are going to buy, you know, properties close to $1 million are going to get help. But I think if, you know, if you're buying a property worth $900,000 or $950,000, I don't think you're really doing it too tough. So let's now get into the states and see what the caps are for purchasing a home with this new scheme. In New South Wales, the cap is going to be increased from $700,000 to $950,000 in the capital or regional centres, and it's going to go from 450,000 to 600,000 in the rest of the state. This is crazy. They're going to give help to people buying houses worth 950,000. I think if you're buying a house worth 950,000, you're doing pretty good. In Victoria, it's going to go from 600,000 to 850,000 in the capital or regional centre, and from 375,000 to 550,000 in the rest of the state. Again, this is just going to keep the bubble going. You know, will this bubble ever end, or can the government just keep kicking it down the road forever? Queensland, for all my Queensland supporters and viewers watching, it's going to go from 575,000 to 650,000 in the capital or regional centre, and it's going to go from 400,000 to 500,000 in the rest of the state. And for all my WA viewers, it's going to go from 400,000 to 550,000 in the capital or regional centre, and it's going to go from 300,000 to 400,000 in the rest of the state. So if you're asking, will this help property prices? Yes, it will. If all of a sudden, you know, a lot of first home buyers can only buy a property with just 5% deposit, you know, that means more people are going to be able to get in the market sooner. It's going to create more demand. So this, along with easy lending and lower interest rates, if the RBA does cut in November, it could fuel house price growth. For my South Australian viewers, it's going to go from 400,000 to 550,000 in the capital or regional centre, and from 250,000 to 400,000 in the rest of the state. For my Tassie viewers, it's going to go from 400,000 to 550,000 in the capital or regional centre, and it's going to go from 300,000 to 400,000 in the rest of the state. ACT, from 500,000 to 600,000 in the territory. And for all yous all the way up there in the Northern Territory, I'm all the way down here in Melbourne, the cap's going to go from 375,000 to 550,000 in the territory. Eligible first home buyers may also be eligible for other grants and concessions. So there we go. The government really is throwing, you know, the whole 4-bedroom house at the property market right now. Look, I have been, you know, criticizing the property market, but that's based on free market logic. We do not have a free market with the Australian property market. Nobody wants to see house prices go down. The government has thrown, you know, like I said, everything at it. We could see in other states, you know, besides Melbourne, in the short term, property prices go up if unemployment returns. If they do fix the economy pretty quick, we could see some, you know, more house price growth because of the low interest rates, ease lending. And if they keep throwing schemes like this, and, you know, if they increase the first home buy grants, who knows, you know, I'm going to have to watch the budget to see what they announce. But unfortunately, yes, housing could become more unaffordable. We could see more house price growth because of all these schemes. You know, there's all these bears out there that keep putting the predictions, you know, that the market would crash. And yes, they're right, based on the information that they have. But of course, the government always intervenes. They always throw more money at it. Will it ever end? You let me know. And to all my loyal viewers and subscribers still watching, you're awesome. And if you haven't already, subscribe. I'll keep you all up to date with the latest economic news, latest property market news. I'll keep you all up to date with the trends, what's happening in the property market. Because, you know, I don't have any conflict of interest, because there's a lot of spookers that, you know, got their conflict of interest for spooking the market. And there's also some bears that have their books and have their products, you know, to sell to be bearish every year. I'm just trying to look at it with common sense. I'm trying to take the pictures from both sides of the story and figure out what the heck's really going on. How do we build wealth for our families, and how do we get ahead? And of course, I'll see you in the next video.